So apparently Susan Smith thought that she had a chance at parole until her latest infraction, and now she's thinking it ain't gonna happen. We're gonna talk about a couple of updates with her in today's video. Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. The sofa is, well, not here. I am right here though. If you're new to the channel, my name is Paul. If you're not new and you're coming back, well, welcome back. I do appreciate it. I am currently traveling. I'm out of town. I'm with a family member, and we've just been doing our little thing. She's been at work, and I've been doing my little true crime stuff while she is at work. And we've been following heavily the Sarah Boone trial here on this channel, and I've been keeping my eye on all the other cases. We kind of keep our eyes on Susan Smith being one of those. There are a couple of updates with her, and I just want to talk about those in today's video. So some of the things we're going to look at today are articles as well as a couple of news clips, specifically not a news clips, but from a talk show, whatever you want to call it. And that's Anjanette Levy. She is with Law and Crime on her show Crime Fix, where she talks to Susan Smith's former husband and his new wife. And there's that. So what we're going to do is, first of all, just very quickly talk for people who might not know who Susan Smith is. I'm just going to give you the quick rundown of who she is and how we arrived at today's video. Susan Smith was sentenced to life in prison, which she is eligible for parole after 30 years. She has hit that 30-year mark. Now, what she is serving life in prison for is for the death of her two sons. She lied about what happened, but what she ended up being found out is that she took her boys, strapped into the back of her car, and let them roll into a lake in her car. She would then go ask for help and say a black man had carjacked her, took her car with her sons. She would go on national television. She would have her husband supporting her by her side. However, this story quickly came unraveled, and behind the scenes detectives started noticing her story's changing. It's not adding up, right? Well, they finally were able to get to the truth. They got the car. The boys, sadly, obviously lost their lives. Then Susan went to trial. She was convicted. She did not get the ultimate sentence, but like I said, she got life and she is eligible for parole. Now, Susan has had a very tumultuous history in prison, I guess you could say. She has had multiple infractions. She has had multiple situations with men, with guards, with you name it, right? If you follow the case, you'll know that Susan is kind of a, how would you say it? She enjoys the gentleman callers, okay? And that's part of why she did what she did. She was having an affair, if you will. Her and her husband were kind of separating, that things weren't going well. She was having an affair with a man who didn't want kids, and so it would seem that Susan thought in her mind, well, if I just get rid of my boys, number one, it'll probably garner sympathy, but number two, I can, have my man, right? So obviously that was absolutely psycho, okay? Not the way to go about that. And two young children lost their lives and many other lives were destroyed in the process. So that's the very quick version of who she is and essentially what she did. There's books on her. I've actually read one of them. If it is a case that interests you, it's tawdry, but I don't even know if fascinating is the word for it. If you're interested in psychology and what drives people to do what they do, yeah, that part of it's interesting because woo, she is packed full of information with that kind of stuff. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. But what we're going to talk about now in today's video is we're going to get into those little updates. And what we'll do first is we're going to review a couple of little articles. I'm going to put them on the screen so you can kind of read along with me and see what's going on. So the first article you're going to see here is through USA Today. It's by Fernando Cervantes Jr. And the headline reads, Susan Smith, convicted of killing her two children in infamous 1994 case, is up for parole. Now let's go ahead on to the little update with it. Now here you'll just see it says the South Carolina Department of Probation, Parole and Pardon Services announced Monday that Smith's parole hearing is scheduled for November 20th. It's going to be online and she's going to be joined from prison. Now I'm recording this on October 27th. We're a little bit less than a month away. Now again, if you've been following this, you'll know I've done other updates on it where she's like, look, I've served my time, I've done this, it's time for me to go. People have done basically less. Now on that level, I understand that people have served less for more, if that makes sense. However, I think each case is very unique. In this case particularly, especially whether you live through it or not, but I just remember the shock of it because these days, like true crime headlines, it's almost like, well, what haven't we seen, right? Back then, for a mother to get on TV and cry like she did, which now looking back, it looks completely fake, cry like she did this and that, and then to learn what really happened, and it gives me goosebumps right now to see the pictures of that car, knowing those two little boys were strapped in the back of it, and that she was on TV talking about, I just want my babies brought home safe, I just want my babies, this and that, dragging her husband through that, God knows what he was thinking, the public, the whole 9 yards, and then to turn out that she did this all over a man. Absolutely not, right? This was a level of shock I can't describe. This was before the word viral for stuff was. The world knew about this, okay? So the fact that she has remained behind bars is no surprise. The fact that her behavior hasn't changed, she's just continued to do her same old games, is no surprise. The fact that she'll probably not get parole is no surprise to the rest of us, right? But apparently it wasn't to her. Now let's get into the little update about what she has done most recently. Now in this one, you're going to see on the screen the headline here. This is by Steve Helling, published October 24th, 2024. It's through U.S. News. And it says, inconsolable killer mom Susan Smith thinks parole is now off the table after she was convicted of trying to cash in on her infamy, derailed it herself, it says. So let's just get into exactly what she's thinking here. The second one. Now this is a relative who is talking to the Post, and they say that she's inconsolable, as you can see in quotes. She was so close to getting out, it seems to be collapsing in front of her eyes. She has derailed herself. She's not happy at all, they say. Now we go down to the second paragraph, and they continue to say here in quotes, she knows it's now very unlikely she's going to get out, the relative said. This is a fresh disciplinary action a month before her parole hearing. The parole board 100% pays attention to these things. This is really bad. Now, I just want to sit here and say this. I can understand in these situations that we watch, meaning these crimes, these cases, when it's your family member that's done something, it's a different vibe than like a complete stranger, right? So I can understand where a family member, and I don't know who this family member is, it's like, okay, well, this is, Susan's whoever, they love her on some level, so they want to see her, whatever, okay, I can kind of get that. The fact, like, to me, and this is just my opinion, and again, if you're new here, I'm not a cop, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a therapist, I'm a doctor, I'm not any of that credentialed stuff, okay? I always forget to say this at the beginning of the video. The only credentials we got is a sofa and some sass up in here, right? These are just opinions on very public information that I make. So just take that into context when the things I'm about to say. So for me reading this, I'm like, oh, you think she was going to get out? You think that's what's stopping her? No, she ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's not going anywhere, okay? There's some cases that are so outlandishly horrifying, no one's going to ever let them out, right? There's no context that you can put that in. Now, if you look at other cases, such as the Menendez brothers, that's very popular right now, and you start reviewing the context of that and how things have shifted and evidence and this and that and blah, 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 and you get these ebbs and flows. Again, each of these cases are like fingerprints. They're very unique. I will always go back to, you strapped your two boys into the back seat in their car seats and let the car go into the lake or whatever it was, and then watch them probably sit there wondering what their mother was doing as water came up on them. You're never getting out of prison, right? You shouldn't get out of prison. Like, that's insane, okay? That is insane, right? Look at other situations. Look at the Manson girls. Like, remember that whole crime that went down, and some of them completely changed their life. Now, that's, again, a very political situation there, but they watched many people who committed murders come and go from the California prison system. I mean, it's pretty big to, stay convicted in the California prison system, right? But what I'm getting at is this part's shocking to me, that they actually thought she was going to get out or had a chance at it, right? Completely shocking to me. Let's go to the next clip. So it says here, it goes a little bit more into what she actually did. And it says, Smith, who is serving a life sentence, was caught agreeing to give a documentary filmmaker contact info for friends, family, and victims, including her ex-husband, according to the South Carolina Department of Corrections. Okay, now we're going to get into why this is so bad here in a second. Now it continues on and says, in return, the filmmaker deposited money into Smith's commissary account, authorities said. Now going further, you can see in this clip her picture, and it says, the 53-year-old was charged with communicating with a crime victim on August 25th and then convicted earlier this month, a Department of Corrections spokesperson confirmed. Filmmaker's name has been redacted from the report, and then it just goes on to say, the South Carolina Department of Corrections inmates are not allowed to do interviews on the telephone or in person. They may only write letters. Now it goes on down here further, and this is the big one here that obviously is screaming to us. Additionally, South Carolina statutes prohibit criminals from profiting from their crimes. In their conversations, Smith and the filmmaker discussed ways for her to get paid for filming a documentary. Now continuing on here, it says they also discussed Smith's crime in depth and the events leading up to and after it, including details like what was in the trunk of the car when it went into the water and her plans to jump from a bridge while holding the boys, but one woke up, the incident report says. Alrighty, let's pause there for one little second. So here's the thing. Yeah, they absolutely... No one should be profiting from this in this manner right here, where she's doing, like, literally getting some honey bun money to, exchange her people's phone numbers and stuff like that, including her ex-husband, who we're going to watch a little clip of him in a second. This whole thing about, I was going to jump in the water holding the boys, but one woke up. Is that better? You know what I'm saying? Now, the person doing the documentary, I'm like, really? You were going to sit here and try and figure out how you could, because I can already tell you that Susan was working it that way. She was trying to sit here and be like, well, what am I getting out of this? How am I getting paid? You see what I'm saying? 100% that's where she was going with this. And they were more than willing to do it. I mean, some of these cases that they revisit, it's like, do we need to know much more about it? Again, on this scenario, if you want to know more about it, there's a book out there, and it's insane, the stuff that you learn about how she maneuvered in this town and whatnot. Now let's just go into a couple of more little things here. Now it says here, Smith lost her telephone, tablet, and canteen privileges for 90 days, beginning October 4th. The charge is not a criminal one, but rather it's an internal disciplinary conviction. It was her first one in almost 10 years. Again, right before her parole that she thought she was going to get out on. Now, down here at the very bottom, it says inmates are issued tablets that are secured for correctional use. The tablets can be used to make monitored telephone calls, to send monitored electronic messages. They are considered a privilege. The department will determine when and if inmate Smith will earn the opportunity to be issued a tablet again. Alrighty. So, yeah. Okay, so there's that. Do I think she'll get that stuff back eventually? Yes. Do I think that this was going to change the board's mind? No, I think they were going to deny her to begin with, right? And this is just all the more reason to not even go forth with it, okay? She's sitting here profiting off this crime, still dredging up the same stuff. She's had affairs with guards. She's continued to destroy lives behind bars. Without doubt, without question, well, we do have proof. She has many suitors that she's been talking to and lining up to try and take care of her. This is Susan's MO. It's why she ended up here, is this thing that she has with men, right? So this is not a surprise. This is not different. She hasn't changed in that way. She's continued to manipulate and do this. It's what she does. Why would we think she would not be willing to stoop to this level again, and maybe not to the depths of what she did to her boys? But who's to say if something gets in her way, she's not going to do something? It would be one thing if the depravity wasn't here, if their circumstances were different, if she had completely changed and all this and that. But again, you don't get around the fact that she put her boys in their car seats and pushed them into a lake, and then tried to lie and say a black man carjacked her. She would have an innocent man, if she could have pinned it on someone, go into Old Sparky right now over her crimes. 100% if she could have done that. 100%. And was probably hoping that's what would have happened, right? But I don't know her personally, so these are just my opinions. Now what I want to do is move on to that interview that I was speaking of with that Aunt Jeanette did, talking with David, Susan Smith's ex-husband, and just listen to a couple little clips of what he has to say about it.
I'm just, I I hate that there's even an opportunity that she might get paroled. Everyone says, oh, it won't happen or she won't get it. And I know probably not, at least not the first time. But just knowing that there's a possibility, that scares me to death.
Now, this is a prime example here of when we look at these cases that we view here, and you want to talk about like the peripheral victims of the cases and whatnot. People that are, might not have been the direct, like the boys are the direct victims in this, okay? Like he said, like it's very easy for, like, I'm not emotionally, other than, having empathy and whatnot, but I'm not related, I'm not emotionally tied like he is. These were his boys. So it's easy for me to sit back on the sofa and say, oh, they're not going to let her out. But if it was my ex-wife and my boys, oh, you better believe, I mean, it gives me goosebumps again thinking about it. You better believe that fear would be there of what if. The fact that he has to sit here and anyone else who truly loved these boys and go through this BS, granted that, after 30 years or whatever, this is what happens to the victims. This becomes their trajectory. This is always in their circumference, always there. And so this is no different here. That fear is very real. Imagine if she got out. Can you imagine if she got out after all that they've been through, whatever? Let's watch another clip.
David, nobody probably knows her better than you do. This is somebody you had 2 children with, your boys, Michael and Alex, and you trusted her. And she betrayed that trust in the most awful, terrible way and took your little boys from you. I mean, there have been news reports that she's reached out to you and asked you to not oppose her release. Is that true?
That is not true. I have not had any contact with Susan whatsoever in nearly 30 years now.
That was wild, because I can remember, I think in the last video, I talked about that in there, where it was like the audacity of her to reach out to him to say, hey, don't oppose my being let out or whatever. So here's the thing. Would it surprise me if she did that? Absolutely not. So that part I was like, well, thank God, because I was shocked when I first saw the reports of that she had reached out to say, hey, don't oppose this. I'm like, are you kidding? Why would you even do that? Again, it wouldn't shock me if she did, but very fascinating to me to hear this information. Again, this is from Anjanette Levy on Law and Crime Fix. Let's go into another little clip here.
When was the last time you actually spoke to her?
It was about a month after she confessed and was arrested. They let me go see her at the prison that she was being held at in Columbia, South Carolina. And I got to spend about an hour with her. And that was the last time I've spoken to her.
Can you imagine going from the trajectory that he did of like this tumultuous relationship with her? This thing happens with the boys. You believe her, you're going to support her. Okay, she was carjacked. Let's find my boys. You're on TV. She's crying. You're being supportive. And then you find this out. And then you go, now you heard him the last time I talked to her. I mean, it was that long ago. Imagine the things you would have to do psychologically to come to terms. Like, I'm thinking of all the questions, all the anger, all the unspoken things you would want to say, the things you would have to come to terms with in your own psyche, in your own mind, spiritually, physically, all that type of stuff, to move on with life. You know what I mean? Because even if you asked her those questions, even if you said those things to her, it's not going to bring them back. And she's a proven pathological liar, so it's like it's not going to do any good. It's like you just have to move on. I admire him for that, like being able to handle that lesson in life, like something of that magnitude, because I can't imagine.
Did she ever offer any explanation, apology, any type of remorse to you as the father of the children, any type of anything?
I asked Susan why she did it, and her reply was, I don't know why. That was the answer she gave me. She didn't go in elaborate anymore. She just said, I don't know why I did it, but I'm sorry.
I mean, you sit here and you think, is there anything that she could say, right? I mean, I would want to know why did you do it, and how could you do that? You know what I'm saying? There's nothing she could say though, and it's almost like I'm trying to put myself in his shoes, and I'm like, I would almost be better off hearing I don't know why than like something like this. It was all I knew to do. I really wanted to get with so and so, and I just felt like it was the best thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's even worse. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be even more of like a kick in the stomach to me. But again, I'm just putting myself like in this situation, like how would I feel in those circumstances and whatnot. Again, the crimes like this that were such horrific levels of just devastation and magnitude, and that rocked not the state, not the nation, the world, okay? The public doesn't forget, the law doesn't forget, and obviously the world doesn't forget, the victims don't. So, and the fact that she's shown no signs of change at all. She's continued to do this stuff behind bars. And so that's where I just, when I read this, I was like, I can't believe they thought she was going to get out. Like, she's not done anything to redeem herself. And then this is just par for the course. The fact that she did this, like, right before, I mean, not right before, but you know what I'm saying? Like, the fact that she did this secondary thing, number one, but, knowing she's going to be up for parole, knowing this is like a 1 in a million lightning strike chance she would even get out, the fact that she would jeopardize that over some honey bun money, literally honey bun money, okay? Which you already know she's got numerous men that are probably filling her account. So, like, that's my thing. I'm like, okay, if you're starving in prison, you got to do what you got to do. You got to get your hustle. Okay, whatever. Do what you got to do. We already know she's got men paying her way and doing this and doing that, talking about, you can come live with me, you can come do this. She's burned those bridges. I mean, if you followed this case over the years, she's made guards lose their jobs, marriages destroyed. There is a wake of destruction that follows Susan Smith around, and that destruction probably didn't start with the boys. It started before that, but that was the pinnacle part that the public, that the world met Susan Smith. And the trail of destruction, even though she's been kind of behind the scenes doing her time, whatever, it hasn't stopped. So I do not foresee her getting out. Obviously, we will be following back up with this to see what takes place. I will may lightning strike me if she gets out on parole. Okay, that's how shocked I'll be, right? So we'll see. Anyways, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I do appreciate if you're still watching. Thank you very much. If you could drop some little sofas off in the comment section for myself and Rosco and Spirit and Bo and Luke, who are at home being babysat. And until my little family over here gathers down with the little Sofa Squad family in the comment section to talk about this case and all the other ones we do talk about here at the Sofa Squad, I'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. Also, if you're looking for merch, be sure to check out my Teespring store. I'll put that up here. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.